Oh, I'm making a video. Anyway.
But perhaps the problem might not be with the actual description of Eden. Or perhaps this is based on a mistranslation. What about the alleged Ghihon River that allegedly went into Ethiopia? James Hoffmeyer says, a possible candidate for the now defunct Pishon River. It's possibly referring to the land of the Kaziites, being in the Zagros Mountains. John Walton notes the Hebrew language of claiming a mist coming up to water the land might be referring to springs. It seems only the Hebrews preserved the memory of the Gulf oasis, but the overall description of the land of Eden does seem to be reliably describing an area no other culture wrote about, but it does show the description in Genesis 2 seems reliable and probably describes a place that actually existed at one time. Therefore, it seems very unlikely this account of Eden was written or copied from mythology during the Babylonian exile, and probably is a reliable oral tradition. It refers to the land of Arabia as Havilah, which appears to be an older name for the area, does likely suggest that Eden was actually a place that existed long ago, so it would have been written down before the Kaziites ruled over the old Babylonian Empire. I'll admit this last piece of data is a little speculative.
Lies, lies, and more lies, and lies on top of lies.
Doesn't sound like divine planning to me. Sounds more like human planning. Sounds more like one group trying to control another group.
Just say the word and you're forgiven. And have no fear 'cause he is risen. Before you realize the rapture ensues. In this world in front of me, becomes a fading memory. Rejoice just as the choir sings. Rejoice now. Tell me of a gift.
So why don't you like and subscribe if you haven't already? And if you want to tell me I'm full of shit, why don't you leave it in the comments? If you want to tell me that I'm not full of shit, why don't you leave that in the comments? If you think none of it matters, why don't you leave that in the comments? Just leave any of it down there. And if you have any video suggestions, send them to me at rshakenfist at Twitter, on Twitter, and, stuff like that. So, enjoy the video. Yay. Hi everybody out there in the void. It's time to finish. Well, start to finish this anyway. You thought it was done with the last video being done, but there's another one to show how much of a hypocrite he is. It's fun, isn't it? Fun. The first up, last stream, the one about Ghihon. I didn't realise that fucking the stream went off for some shit halfway through, and there's only half a stream there, so I'm gonna have to finish it at some point. Hooray! And I think that's it. So fucking if you haven't already, you should watch the first two videos. Otherwise, bits of this aren't going to make as much sense. Whatever. So just like and subscribe and all that good stuff. So here's the rest of the video.
How do you respond to the hiddenness of God? This argument, and I'm not going to get. You can still man it for me, but the idea being, if God exists and wants me to be saved, and I need to accept that salvation in some capacity, then I need to first at least know that he exists.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there are atheists who really would believe in Jesus Christ and God if they could.
Would they?
It's always good to start off fun. I know it's an interview in the middle of a larger interview, but fuck it. This is the bit that I find interesting compared to what we've just been speaking about these past few weeks. Couple weeks. 2 weeks. I'm good with numbers. You should trust me with information. Let's just get this hiddenness shit out of the way, because this is nowhere near the meat of the video. But the hiddenness argument I've always found, I don't know, is intriguing the right word? I don't know what fucking word to use. Silly, maybe. I don't know. Do I use silly too much? Stupid, idiotic, pathetic. I don't know. The idea that there is an all-knowing God that knows everything that will be and has been, and everything, and all the other Bens and Bs and all that stuff, right? Somehow doesn't know if we're going to believe in him or not. And even though he's given us free will, still knows how the outcomes that are going to come out. And we still have to prove shit to him? Like, seriously.
Close the deck!
Wait, aren't you even gonna watch them? They could get away.
No. I'm going to leave them alone and not actually witness them dying. I'm just going to assume it all went to plan. What?
If he was so fucking, jealous and all that shit, he would make sure that we knew about it, wouldn't we? And he would make sure that all those other religions wouldn't be just as plausible as yours. I mean, come on. Those last two videos I did, well, if this is the way it is, I mean, it can be seen to be this. It's a mistranslation.
Perhaps it's the allegedly possibly seems reliable. It seems probably as which appears to suggest. I'll admit this last piece of data is a little speculative.
So, ease up there, Ace. Everyone's tempted to think they're an expert.
Oxygen isn't hidden. Carbon isn't hidden. You know what I mean? Gravitational waves aren't hidden. We just need to know how to look for them, right? And we know they're there, and we can prove they're there by just see they're there. Look at them there, doing stuff. Like, come on. So we have an all-powerful God who just really, really needs us to pay attention to he's there, and that's really dumb. Now, that's the thing, isn't it? It's not really a need for the conviction for someone to believe. It's for them to also perform, I don't know, performative belief. They have to come out and be bombastic about it. You know what I mean? Oh, and I believe in the Lord. Like, or, because, as a whole, apparently us atheists are so untrustworthy that, well, you couldn't even believe us if we converted. Well, that almost sounds like extreme muddying of the waters and a complete demonization of one side of people because they disagree with you about one fact of life. And since they disagree with you about one fact of life, well, that means we're entirely untrustworthy, doesn't it? Because we don't agree with you. And you don't get how that's the problem of religion at all, do you? Nah, I'm just so righteous. I have to go out there and show everyone how righteous I am. It's not like Jesus said, Bible reading with the shaken fist. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogue and on the streets to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think that they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. It's almost like Jesus says, keep your fucking prayers to yourself. The whole point of prayer and worship isn't to be performative. It isn't like, it's literally his instruction on how to pray. Jesus tells you how to pray. Jesus tells you how to pray. Jesus, your Lord and Savior, tells you, keep fucking stum and do it on your own, dickhead. You know what I mean? But, we need the exaltation. We need to go. It's fucking pathetic. What I find really funny about the hiddenness argument is that, so we have found the Higgs boson is a field and not a particle. We have found, neutrinos under Switzerland. You know what I mean? To such an extent that they thought for a few days that they'd broken the speed of light with neutrinos as they were being fired from the LHC into the neutrino catcher because it was in a direct line and they didn't know. We have discovered so much fundamental bullshit about we know that quarks can pop in and out of existence, motherfucker. You know what I mean? We know. We thought, the atom is nothing smaller than the atom, and then there was the proton, the neutron, and the electron, And then we know that, like, protons and neutrons are, like, made of up quarks and down quarks. You know, like, we keep on breaking this shit down and finding out more and more fundamental shit about the universe. You know what we don't find anywhere? God. Why don't we? Why is this thing that apparently makes up the entirety of everything and is present in everything inside this universe suddenly outside the universe whenever we need to find him anywhere? Well, I know he's inside everyone and everything, and his essence flows through everything, and it makes everything, because he is existence, and existence is him, sort of shit, and or whatever bullshit you want to throw at it, because, you know, there's so many different versions of you that have different views of him that, hey, how can anyone ever tell which one of you are correct? So, let's not spend too much time on this. Let's just move on, okay? Let's just move on. Let's move on to what we're supposed to be talking about here. How fucking hypocritical you are.
I mean, here's
there's something we don't know how to. How could you can't answer that?
You can't answer that, yeah. I mean, human psychology is so complex. When an atheist tells me, if you just gave me the evidence, I'd believe, I go, uh-huh. That's not how your brain works. That's not how we work as humans. This isn't the way it is. Flat earthers exist, okay? The evidence the earth is round is there, and there's people who don't believe it.
You're right, there's flat earthers around there and don't believe it. There's Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and Sikhs and Shintos and Zoroastrians and, like, every denomination in there in between, and all the different other versions of all the other things that I have. Did I say Sikhism? Did I say Buddhism? Did I say Hinduism? I don't know. There's just so many of them. I've not even thought of all the big ones. Well, I've thought of the big ones. I haven't thought of all the main ones. What about the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons? Oh, the different forms of Christianity. I forgot. Oh my God, there's just so many of them. What am I to do? So I was just wondering, aside from being born in the country where that religion is predominantly the thing, and the family are in is, like, aside from all that, how are you supposed to choose which one's right? Well, because someone else told you? Well, everyone's supposed to go off someone else, aren't they? Because, you know, we don't have these intuitive facts in our brains whatsoever. Our entire makeup of how the world is a mixture of what our parents tell us, what our friends tell us, what strangers tell us, what we pick up in the media, what we read in books, which I suppose is a form of media. There's all sorts of different shit. You're right. The human mind is a pretty complex fucking thing. A pretty complex fucking thing indeed. And by the way, how dare you even think that any of them could be wrong? You know, it's not like there's practices that happen to people that are in these communities, like shunning. Oh, you know, they display a little bit of doubt and then shun them away. There isn't also a history of hateful campaigns from, like, Russian Orthodox, like with the pogroms, or the Catholics with the Inquisitions and the Crusades. But there's also stuff now. I mean, like, you have Christians now that kidnap their children because they're not Christian enough and send them to foreign countries so they can be abused in a Christian camp. Kidnap for Christ, what an amazing documentary. You know what I mean? So I wonder why the person, not saying that you're part of one of those organizations, but I'm saying you're part of the whole organization of Christianity that finds various bits of this quite pleasing to different people and to different ways in your faith, because, hey, it just matters that people believe you, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter whether you're right. It doesn't matter if you have to make up things, does it? No, it doesn't matter at all. It isn't like science was the one that came along and said, actually, this is how the brain works, and this is how psychology is. And it isn't like science came along and went, do you know what? Maybe not everything in the world is as intuitive as we think it is. So maybe we should look a little bit deeper, and we should actually look for the evidence. Maybe science isn't a field of study filled with thousands of people that actually crave to be proved fucking wrong. It's part of the scientific process. The whole point of doing an experiment is to prove your hypothesis wrong. Not to prove it that it's true, to prove that it's wrong. That's why atheists have to pick everything apart, dickhead, because most of us are science-minded. So because we're science-minded, we need the proof. So we have to pick it apart because the hypothesis goes, do you know what? If I do X, Y will happen. So then I have to prove that won't happen. And if I can prove that it won't happen, then the hypothesis is wrong. Right? So the whole point is we are trying to be proved wrong. We want the evidence, but because you're a Christian, coming inherently from a place of doubt, it makes you antsy, doesn't it? We'll get to that in a minute, I suppose. You know, confirmation bias is rife. That is why the scientific process has tried to eradicate confirmation bias. That's why we do double-blind studies and all these different things, right? To find out stuff. Is the point is we want to find out what it is. Now, unless you're a pretty petty fucking scientist, it doesn't matter if you're on opposite ends of the field. When the matter's settled, you should be thankful that they proved you wrong. Just like if you were right and they are wrong, they should be very happy that you proved them wrong. Because it isn't about going, you're right, you're wrong. It's about finding out the fundamental, the fundamentality of everything of existence. To find out how things work and to make everything better for our species. That's literally the fucking point. It isn't trying to make sure that your sin counter isn't as high as your good deed counter, or that your prayer counter and belief days are high, or whatever. It's just so you can go to heaven. That's it's not a tally of things to try and go to heaven. It's about trying to make things better in the here and now. And that's kind of why you guys don't like it, isn't it? Aside from the fact that it keeps on proving you wrong about everything, religion, especially nowadays, it really requires people to be down and out, really shit out of luck, doesn't it? It requires them to be a drunk or a druggie whose girlfriend / boyfriend / whatever, child, brother, sister, mother, father, blah 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 blah, died or whatever, and they're really sad, and then somebody comes along with the light of Jesus because he says a nice thing, and they go, "Oh, it makes me feel warm inside," and they go, "Oh, that's the light of Jesus, my friend." That or science doesn't really give a shit. It says this is how things are. At least we don't have to prey on weakness. We prey on strength, my friend. So since we prey on strength, we work together as a scientific community to reach scientific consensus. And just because individuals might not like each other doesn't mean at the end of the day they don't accept facts. Because if they don't accept the facts, they can't carry on with their experimentation. Because if they have the fundamentals wrong, then all of their experiments will be wrong. So, as a community, we have to be stalwart in ourselves and be okay with things being not right. And, well, Christianity just can't have that, can it? It has to be right about everything all the time. Because, well, you can't read the Bible and be a minimalist. You have to be a maximalist because that's the only way it could be, isn't it?
Don't give me this nonsense that if I just gave you the evidence, you'd change your worldview. We know from studying the brain that when your beliefs are attacked, even little beliefs, the lizard part of your brain lights up. Fight or flight response.
Now, of course, we must always speak in generalities. There's always going to be petulant people. But you guys are really the people that have the problem with the fight or flight stuff. That's why you shun people if they don't agree with you in the church. That's why, families beat their children into submission, into believing into God, because they might stray a little bit. That's why all manner of horrific abuses happen to people, because, well, you just haven't found God enough. Like Mother Teresa making all those people suffer without medicine, because, well, it just brings them closer to God, doesn't it? And that's what matters, because pain is what is the redemption that brings you into Christ, or whatever bullshit she was peddling while she was giving money to, like, what was it, South American, Central American drug lords, or was it in the Caribbean? I can't remember offhand. Let me just have a quick look. Sorry, did I say drug lord? I just meant brutal dictators. Ah! Oh, joyous days. Joyous days. God be praised. But you want to bemoan that atheists just aren't going to believe, because, if we just gave him the proof, clearly wouldn't listen. Well, is that why you don't give proofs in your video and you make a lot of random assertions? Well, it seems to be. Sounds like come on.
Perhaps it's the allegedly seems reliable. It seems probably as which appears to suggest. I'll admit this last piece of data is a little speculative.
Seems to me it's all mights and maybes. Oh, that video's pathetic. And you're the one that can't really accept answers, can you? Because You know, oh, well, the Ghihon is definitely in Iran. It's not in Jerusalem, and we don't know it's there, and it didn't even prove that Hezekiah was real or anything. No, it didn't. It didn't do that. Why would it do that? What are you on about? It's in Iran. Have you not read Kitchen?
The later additional vowel points can simply be understood to mean the land of the Kaziites, or Kashu, which was in western Iran. Their original homeland appears to have been the Zagros Mountains before they later controlled the area of Babylon after the old Babylonian Empire fell. Satellite data also reveals a long river that wrapped around the Zagros Mountains that drained into the same river as the other three, which also correlates with the account of the Ghihon River in Genesis 2, coming from the land of Cash instead of Cush.
Do you want to hear proof? Biology class, chemistry class, physics class. You know when they go, well, we did this experiment and this did this, so it means that this happened. Oh wow, well that sounds like a lot of proof right there. That seems like that's a replicatable experiment that provides proof. It's almost like we do that all the time, like how we figured out that the light coming from what atoms were in the center of a star, you know, because we measured the shadow between the colors in the light we put the light from the star, we put it through a spectrometer, and then we measured the shadow between the colors, and then that was the atom width, because the atoms were blocking the light. It's almost like we could do that repeatedly and still find the same results over and over again. And no, well, you can't. And while creationists, then I know you totally say you aren't, but you say Eden exists. But I suppose it's not the way Bible says it, because it's the end of a poll. You can't do that with archaeology, except, we keep on finding, like, the same layers of fucking, is it iridium or is it palladium? I'll put it there. Like, around everywhere where the comet or the asteroid hit the Earth, where the dinosaurs came and died, because of the dust in the sky blocking out the sun, and all that stuff that we have proof for, but, well, I suppose it might be this. If you read this as a mistranslation, then I guess maybe Eden, really, if you squint and you look at it sideways from a long distance away, it was totally in the Persian Gulf.
I'll admit this last piece of data is a little speculative.
It's also not like when you were making your argument, you completely ignored a whole verse of God's inspired word, because it kind of disproves what you're saying, because, bdellium and onyx were not found in the Mud Arahab region of the Wadi Patan, intermittent river. I didn't even put that in the last video. He says it's a dry riverbed. It's an intermittent river, and it actually still flows with water sometimes. It depends how dry it is. Anyway.
I've been doing an experiment for years now with a stupid issue that I've been dealing with. It's called, is Christmas pagan? Mm-hmm. There is no evidence any aspect of Christmas is pagan. There is none. Every time I say, and I have every single source I need to prove that. Mm-hmm. I can prove that from here to Tuesday. Every time I bring it up, there is somebody in the comment section, no, you're wrong, this guy's a moron, doesn't know what I'm talking about. I've gotten in long comment threads where I go through and I'm citing, here's what the Philo-Kilian calendar says, here's what Macrobius says, here's what the earliest texts on Yule logs are, and there's no evidence Yule logs go back to paganism. I can show you the first reference to a Yule log and John Aubrey's work, okay? They still don't believe me. You know what it tells me? It doesn't matter how much evidence I give people Christmas isn't pagan, they're still going to believe it because they want to. Now take it with something that's much more life-changing, some more fundamental, more impactful, like Christianity. You really think something that's more threatening to the way people live they're gonna change just if I give them the evidence?
Oh, fucking Christmas, Jesus Christ! Do you ever think that maybe really they just don't trust you, right? It's not about whether your facts are right or wrong. It's they don't trust you.
Perhaps it's the allegedly seems reliable. It seems probably as which appears to suggest. I'll admit this last piece of data is a little speculative.
Like if David Icke came up and found like the most rarest thing ever, right? And then decided that he was going to show it, he was going to tell me about it and not show it to me. Well, why the fuck would I believe him even though he's telling the truth? It's David fucking Icke, right? So if people automatically think that this lying Christian bastard is lying to us.
Perhaps it's the allegedly seems reliable. It seems probably as which appears to suggest. I'll admit this last piece of data is a little speculative.
Why are they going to believe anything you say? Of course, you know, and all the things you bring up, I just can't leave this Christmas thing alone. Anyway, just because you brought it up, Mithras' birthday is on December 25th, even though Saturnalia ends 3 days beforehand. I don't know, maybe they could be merged together in some way. I mean, we know, for instance, the Hakon Haraldsson, Hakon the Good in the 10th century, something thereabouts, brought a bunch of Christian traditions over to Scandinavia and merged them together. Now, if you want to say that individual pieces were created by Christians, that's fine. But also, you got to realize that cultures mixing with each other, whether it be, you know, the Christian culture, the Roman culture, the Viking culture, they all merge together in various ways. And when one culture dominates another, there's like there's a resplendent history of them merging in small ways. Oh, well, this one is slightly near this holiday, is slightly near this holiday. See, we're not too different, you and I. You know what I mean? Like, so if you want to pretend that everything Christian is 100% original because otherwise it's going to hurt your little feelings, then... Christ, I even forgot about Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus, whose birthday is also on the 25th of December. And do you know who was obsessed with Sol Invictus? Quite a bit. And actually said that Sol Invictus was Jesus. Maybe Constantine. You know that guy that changed the Roman Empire officially to being a Christian nation? You know, that guy who is obsessed with Sol Invictus, whose birthday is on the 25th of December. Now, if you want to pull a bunch of shit out of your ass and go, well, you know, John Aubrey in the 1600s said this, and, you know, it doesn't matter. It's such a paltry issue that maybe that's part of the reason that people take issue with you of it, because who gives a flying fuck aside from Christians? Nobody actually cares about Jesus anymore when it comes to Christmas Day. It's about what presents you get in and the Christmas tree and all this stupid different shit. Very few people literally give a shit about Jesus on Jesus' birthday because the Bible doesn't say that Jesus' birthday is on December 25th. And in fact, they didn't celebrate Christmas for a few hundred years after, almost around till the time of Constantine. Weird that, isn't it? But, you know, oh, they just won't believe me. They just won't believe me because, you know, they're not performing the performative belief, because back in the day when you were arguing against pagans, it was a lot easier, right? But nowadays we're arguing against people who understand things, who actually went to school and can read and have read books and have seen things and can watch YouTube and documentaries and our Lord and Saviour, Sir David Attenborough, and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So we have more of a basis to go off of, so we can have a more coherent argument back. It was a lot easier back in Jesus' day to convert people because, well, they were all pagans, and paganism didn't really want to convert people. Judaism didn't really want to convert people, but by golly, Paul wanted you to, didn't he? And, like, all these people thought that the world was going to end. So they were telling people to, like, repent because the world's going to end, you know, because Jesus said, what was it? You know, it's so hard to remember. Some people who stand before me today shall not taste death before my God's kingdom has come to earth. Oh. Like, come on. All these people thought the world was going to end, and they were trying to save people. And then the world didn't end. So basically, you know, like one of these cults go, hey, the aliens are going to come in the spaceship, or they're going to take us to heaven. And then they're going to come at midnight, and then midnight comes, and then it's 5 past midnight. And then, you know, it's 20 past midnight, and people start looking around the room embarrassed, going, what's going on? People start running in and out of the room, trying to find answers to questions they don't know are there already. Like... You know, that definitely happened to Christianity. That's kind of where Paul came along and went, forget about all that. Hey, I know he said then, but, you know, it's now. So let's move forward and let's do other things that are not the same as what he said. And then everybody went, that sounds like a splendid idea. And the dead, all that evidence, well, it says it in the Bible. Why don't you believe the Bible? Well, because the Quran exists. Well, you know, well, they're wrong. Oh, are they? What proof do you have that they're wrong? Well, they came afterwards. Oh. And they said that Jesus isn't God. Oh, right. So what proof do you have that Jesus is God? The Bible. Well, the Torah doesn't say that. The Tabrach doesn't say that. I mean, like, there's a bunch of books that don't say that. It's just the Bible. And I guess that's not filled with any historical inaccuracies or anything like that. Because, you know, the flawless oral tradition, it only got messed up by the translations. So, like, just because you haven't convinced someone doesn't mean they can't be convinced. Maybe it just means that you can't convince someone so well. Maybe that's all it is.
It's not how people are.
It's like abortion. I mean, before modern sonograms, people would say it's not human, it's not a life, and then you would, as the science developed, you were able to show very clearly, look at its heartbeat, look at its brain, look at how it acts.
It's both human and a clump of cells. Like, we're aside from our skeleton and internal fluids, we're all a clump of cells in a structure that makes a person. So if you're going to tell me that it's a human being when it's one cell that divides into two, I'm going to say yes, but it's also two cells. And when it's the two cells have separated and divided into four, well then, and you say, well, it's a human being, I'm going to say, yeah, it is. It's also just 4 cells. And then when it divides again and it's in 8 cells instead of 4, and you go, that's a human being. Yeah, it is. It's still only 8 cells. I don't really want to stick on abortion for that long because it's really fucking stupid. Like, that you guys care so much. I mean, your own Bible says, hey, like, I don't know, if your woman's cheating on you, yo, and you can prove it, well, then she has to drink a bit of drink, and then God will kill the undeserving baby. So God tells you to kill the babies if they're not yours. Tells you that if she's been unfaithful to kill the baby. It just tells you to do that. But that's part of the Bible that you can ignore, right? Because, well, it's always nice to pick and choose the Almighty's words as you choose. I just always love it. It's just fantastic. It's a very special thing that you guys do. And we're the ones that can't accept proof. We're the ones that can't accept anything, even though you can't accept it in your own fucking Bible. Well, it's a different time, and I don't want to follow that anymore. Well, good for you. If he is real, you're fucked. More fucked than I am, my friend. But what I'm going to say about abortion is, so, what we should do is we should care about human life so much that we should make these children suffer their entire childhoods because, I don't know, maybe someone who's willing to kill their child really isn't fit to be a parent at that time. Maybe that's the point. Because, like, if you're too poor, that kid has to be poor its entire life and suffer through all these different indignities of not being able to do much, not really having anything, being bullied for being poor, constantly looking at others and causing them probably to hate them because it makes it easier for you to make them Christians because they're poorer, they're more likely to be less educated and all these different things that makes you think it'll be a lot easier. Well, that's a youth we can pluck into God. That's really the thing, isn't it? It's just more potential worshippers. It's not about the sanctity of life. It's not about, like, because I don't know what either of your stances are on abortion, but you're both vaguely Catholic, aren't you? I mean, Christ, one of you is named after Aquinas. Like, so then, we have a baby, and then it's going to be born with Huntington's, should be allowed to live. Because, the parent feeling so super special about having a child and that child being alive matters more than the fact that they'll eventually be able to lose all motor function and their entirety of the bodies will move and act in ways that they have no control over as they sit and recoil. Well, they frantically ambulate in horror at the things they cannot control. Yeah, real fucking nice. Also, it makes it a drain on completely everyone else and then, well, it's a whole happy situation all round, isn't it? Because then it isn't like those people then go and have children, then also have Huntington's, so then we're going to make more people suffer. Like, genetic purity's bad and everything, but maybe we should actually do something about all these genetic disorders that get passed around like fucking candies, because everyone thinks that they should just be able to have a kid. Sometimes it really is the good thing to abort the baby because, well, what if the father of that baby is going to beat it to death all the fucking time? I don't know. Maybe. What if it's brought up by parents that are addicted to heroin and drink all the time and it's going to have fucking, all these prenatal issues because they drank and smoked and did all these things while they're pregnant because the parents don't give a flying fuck. Or they're going to be completely neglected because they work too much. You know what I mean? Like, yay! More people suffer for God. Hooray! Like, there's enough foster kids out there as it is. We don't have enough room for them as it is. You know what I mean? But have more babies. Be fruitful and multiply. I know we can't take care of everything that we got already, but we need some more, boy!
And I still, people tell me, I mean, it's ridiculous. It doesn't matter how much evidence you show people. And this has been shown in psychology. I remember reading a study one time where they had 2 groups. One group, they asked, what do you prefer, home care or daycare? So group A said home care. Group B said daycare. Then they gave them each 2 fake studies. One study showed how good home care was, and one study showed how good daycare was. And the people in the first group that preferred home care said, oh, they used reasoning to dismiss the daycare study. They looked for things to dismiss it. Same thing in the other group. They did look for things to dismiss it. People build their worldviews. We all do it. We need to recognize this is the way we are, because the first step to realizing we have a problem is...
Yep. And do you know what else studies have shown? That in a group, people depersonalize themselves and turn and become more evil because they do not stand out in a group and they don't have to fear of repercussions. So say there's a large enough group that like to spew hate at people. Well, it would make people worse because they get to hide in a big group and they wouldn't be picked out as much as someone else. Or like...
Today, we are going to be demonstrating a very famous psychological experiment known as the Ash experiment. This experiment tests conformity and whether or not a person will say something incorrect simply because everyone else is. What matters more, being right or fitting in? Well, let's find out. We have 5 professional actors that have been instructed to do as we say. Often they will be lying about what they think the answer is. But in position number 5, a real participant who has no idea what's going on will be seated. Now, their task is to match the length of the line on the left with one of the lines on the right. But what if everyone else in the room gave the wrong answer? Would you be bold enough to stick out and say what you saw? Or would you just fit in because it's easier or less uncomfortable?
Okay, so let's begin.
The first few times, we're going to have the actors say the correct answer to gain the trust of our subject. The correct answer here is 3.
3.
3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
3.
1. 1.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Now they're all going to start lying.
The correct answer is 3. Let's see what our subject does.
1. 1.
Pretty quickly, she appears to be confused.
1.
Okay, number 1.
Number 1.
3.
1.
You can see participant 5 closing one eye, then the other, trying to figure out why everyone's wrong, but she's not going along with them.
Again, the correct answer is 3. Let's see what our subject does.
Number 1. Number 1.
Yeah, number 1.
Number 1.
3.
She's sticking to her guns, but she appears to be uncomfortable opposing the group. This time, the correct answer is 2.
3. 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Wow.
3.
She's falling in line. Will she do it again? The correct answer is 3.
1. 1.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Conform.
Because they don't want to be seen in an out-group and to be seen as stupid. So it's almost like a bunch of people, when they get into a solid enough group that have enough law, what they think is enough law behind them to study themselves throughout anything, because, well, you know, it doesn't even matter if it's wrong. If what I think is wrong, it's the devil that's making it seem wrong and it's actually correct. It's amazing how much those two things congru with how Christians act with literally fucking everything. But we're the ones that can't admit facts. You know, well, Adam and Eve were definitely around. It's definitely 15,000 years ago. Oh, okay, all right, 15, all right. But we have people from 500,000 years ago. Well, you know what? They go, oh, you know, science goes, hey, we have found genetic Eve. And we have found genetic Adam. Not actually saying Adam and Eve, but the man and the woman that all humans come from. And they don't come from the same time period. And Christians still go, see? They're there! So you don't even understand the concept that they're talking about. But you're so overeager to just grab anything that might just seem even vaguely true. Well, you can't look at anything critically for a moment because God tells you very explicit, trust not in your own understanding. Why don't you just just trust in mine, okay? I know all because I'm God and I'm omnipotent and that means I know everything. So, just trust in me and not yourself because you're a dumb little pleb. Sheep, sorry.
Sabbath day, Lord's name, strange gods. Spooky language. Spooky language. Designed to scare and control primitive people.
Let me read to you from Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, there's what to do. And then it says that warning, and lean not to your own understanding. It's saying, don't try and figure things out. Just trust the Lord like a little child trusts their father. Don't even question it.
How to share your faith effectively and biblically, to be able to reason with people, learn to circumnavigate or go around the person's intellect.
Doesn't sound like divine planning to me. Sounds more like human planning. Sounds more like one group trying to control another group. In other words, business as usual in America.
Of course!